Hello, everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about John Locke, one of the most important figures in the history of philosophy. We will focus on the transition from the thinking self to the experiencing self, a problem that shaped his thinking. John Locke is considered one of the most influential figures in modern philosophy after Descartes. Locke is known as a pioneer of the English Enlightenment, and his works offer in-depth analyses of topics such as religion, education, government, and knowledge. One of his most important works, an essay concerning human understanding, lays the foundation for the theory of knowledge and is considered the first major defense of modern empiricism. In this work, Locke explores the source and limits of knowledge. He questions how humans acquire knowledge, whether it is innate or acquired later in life. According to him, knowledge comes from experiences, and the human mind is like a blank slate at birth. This brings us to one of Locke's most discussed concepts, the idea. According to Locke, an idea is everything that our mind perceives. In other words, images, concepts, designs, and more that appear in our minds during thought are defined as ideas. Locke argues that ideas are not innate, but are acquired through our senses and experiences. John Locke adopted an empirical approach to how we acquire and understand knowledge when explaining the types of ideas. Locke argues that there is no innate knowledge in our minds, and all knowledge is acquired through sensation and perception. He examines the types of ideas under two main headings: simple ideas and complex ideas. Simple ideas are pure perceptions that come directly to the mind through experience. Locke states that these simple ideas are derived through sensory perception and introspection. Our mind perceives the outside world through the senses. Sensory perceptions, such as colors, sounds, tastes, and warmth, fall into this category. The mind also acquires ideas by observing its own operations. Mental processes such as thinking, wanting, and believing are ideas that emerge through introspection. Complex ideas, on the other hand, are formed by combining simple ideas. The mind processes simple ideas to create more complex structures. Locke divides complex ideas into three categories: substances, modes, and relations. Substances are ideas formed about objects or entities in the physical world. For example, the idea of an apple is formed by combining simple ideas such as its color, smell, and shape. Modes are ideas that are not dependent on themselves, but are related to other ideas. For example, concepts such as number, beauty, and motion can be defined as modes. Relations express the states of two or more ideas in relation to each other. For example, relations such as size or equality are ideas that emerge as a result of comparing objects with each other. This distinction made by Locke is one of the cornerstones of his theory of knowledge and helps us understand our process of acquiring knowledge. Our mind obtains simple ideas by observing sensory data from the outside world and its own internal workings. Then it combines these ideas to arrive at complex concepts and knowledge. Locke strongly criticizes the existence of innate ideas. According to him, if we really had innate knowledge, children and those who are not mentally sound would also have this knowledge. However, since such a situation is not the case, he opposes the idea that ideas are innate. According to Locke, the knowledge in our minds is shaped and developed by our experiences. At the heart of Locke's theory of knowledge lies experience. The source of all our ideas are either sensory experiences from the outside world, or they come from the thinking processes within our own minds. The mind receives information from the outside world through the senses and processes this information. These two basic processes, external experience and internal thinking, form the building blocks of Locke's understanding of knowledge. John Locke's philosophy, particularly his theory of knowledge and political thought, has been criticized by many thinkers. Here are some of the most important philosophers who have made the most serious criticisms of Locke. Despite embracing Locke's empiricist views, Berkeley criticized Locke's concept of matter. While Locke argued that the properties of objects appear as ideas in our minds, he acknowledged that objects have a material basis. However, Berkeley argues that the existence of matter is unnecessary, and by saying to be is to be perceived, claims that all beings exist only in the mind. He also criticizes Locke's distinction between primary and secondary qualities. According to Berkeley, this distinction is invalid, and all qualities are mentally perceived things. Hume took Locke's theory of knowledge further, questioning the limits of experience-based knowledge. While accepting Locke's transition from simple to complex ideas, Hume takes a more radical approach to concepts such as cause and effect, object identity, and the self. According to Hume, many concepts, such as causality, are a habit of our minds and cannot be verified by experience. He argues that Locke's experience-based understanding of knowledge is not based on a solid foundation, arguing that no knowledge that cannot be verified by experience can be certain. Kant, who opposed Locke's method of attaining knowledge and the idea of tabula rasa, argued that Locke's theory of knowledge was incomplete. While Kant agreed that experience is important for knowledge, he argued that the mind organizes the world with innate categories and structures of knowledge. According to Kant, knowledge comes not only from sensory perception, but also from a structure brought by the mind. Thanks to these a priori categories, people can make sense of the world. Kant finds Locke's philosophy empirically inadequate and offers a more comprehensive theory of knowledge, which he calls transcendental idealism. Reid, a prominent representative of the Scottish school of common sense, is another philosopher who criticized Locke's empiricist approach. Reid argues that Locke and other empiricists neglected the principle of the directness of perception. According to him, we acquire direct knowledge about the world, and our mind does not act as a kind of intermediary. Reid criticizes Locke's understanding of knowledge with his common sense philosophy, emphasizing that the knowledge people gain from their experiences is direct. Leibniz, another thinker who directly opposed Locke's idea of tabula rasa, believes that the mind is not a blank slate and that some knowledge and ideas exist innately. According to Leibniz, there are innate tendencies or principles in the mind. He calls these necessary truths. Opposing Locke's empiricism with his understanding of innate ideas, Leibniz argues that knowledge such as logic and mathematics is independent of experience, suggesting that there is an innate law of reason. Locke's political views are associated with the social contract theory and are based on individual rights. However, Rousseau criticizes Locke's understanding of the social contract and proposes a structure that prioritizes social equality. According to Rousseau, Locke's emphasis on individual rights is not sufficient, and society, as well as individual rights, should also consider the common interests of society. Rousseau argues that the individual is dependent on society and that the common interests of society come before individual rights.